June 17, 1995. A 16-year-old girl walks 3 blocks to study with a friend. She never arrives. That same afternoon, 1 mile away, a pickup truck vanishes from a parking lot. For 30 years, no one connected them. Then, in a basement lab in Denton, Texas, a beam of blue light caught something coiled at the edge of an evidence box, and 5 words spoken in an interrogation room would shatter 3 decades of silence. I wasn't the only one there that day. This is the story of Sophia Rodriguez, and this is how science refused to let her stay forgotten. If you're drawn to cases where justice refuses to stay buried, hit that subscribe button right now. We dive deep into the evidence the world forgot, and we don't stop until the truth surfaces. Like this video, drop a comment telling me what cold case keeps you up at night, and let's get into it. June 2025. The Center for Human Identification in Denton, Texas. The building stands unremarkable from the outside. Just another research facility in a university town where students rush between classes and life moves forward without pause. But inside, in a basement analysis room flooded with specialized lighting, the past is about to collide with the present in a way that will rewrite everything we thought we knew about a hot summer day in 1995. Forensic specialist Miguel Aranda has been at this work for 12 years. He's seen remains in every state of degradation imaginable. He's processed evidence from cases so cold they've accumulated layers of dust in storage facilities across Texas. He's learned to maintain professional distance, to treat each bone fragment, each tissue sample, each degraded piece of evidence as a puzzle to be solved rather than a human life interrupted. But today, something is different. The blue light analysis lamp, a sophisticated piece of technology that can reveal details invisible to the naked eye, sits angled over his workstation. Its beam, precise and unforgiving, illuminates a section of femur bone that's been waiting in evidence storage since 1998, 3 years after the events that put it there. 27 years before this moment. Miguel adjusts the lamp with practiced precision. The light sweeps across the bone's surface, catching every microfracture, every weathered ridge, every sign of time's relentless erosion. The femur fragment is roughly 8 inches long, discolored by years in earth that's alternately baked by brutal summer heat and soaked by Gulf Coast storms. It's not much to look at. Most people would see only a piece of ancient bone. Unremarkable and sad. But Miguel isn't most people. His eyes, trained to catch anomalies, to spot the details that tell stories, suddenly lock onto something at the edge of the evidence box. Something that shouldn't be there. Something that changes everything. It's a fragment. Smaller than a fingernail. Coiled. Synthetic. The kind of fiber that doesn't belong in soil, doesn't belong in nature, doesn't degrade the way organic materials do. Miguel's breath catches. He's seen fibers before, countless times. Carpet fibers, clothing fibers, fibers from car interiors and furniture upholstery. But this one is different. This one has survived nearly 3 decades in conditions that should have destroyed it. This one has a story to tell. He reaches for his documentation camera, photographs the fiber from 6 different angles, then carefully, using sterilized tweezers, lifts it from where it rests against the bone. Under magnification, the fiber reveals itself more completely. It's blue. Not navy, not sky blue, but a specific shade that will later be identified as Chrysler Electric Blue, a paint color used on a limited range of vehicles manufactured between 1992 and 1996. The fiber itself appears to be from automotive carpeting. Industrial grade. The kind installed in trucks. Miguel bags the fiber using proper chain of custody protocols, labels it with case number 95-03717, the number assigned to an unidentified set of remains discovered in a shallow grave off County Road 42 on August 9, 1998. He doesn't know yet that this fiber, this tiny fragment of synthetic material, is about to resurrect a case that's been dormant for so long that most of the original investigators have retired, moved away, or died. He doesn't know that within 72 hours, his discovery will set in motion a sequence of events that will bring a family closure they'd stopped believing was possible. He doesn't know that a man living quietly in Arizona, a man who's been sleeping soundly for 30 years, is about to have his past dragged into the light. All Miguel knows right now is that he's found something significant. Something that demands follow-up. He picks up his phone and dials the number for Detective Sarah Chen at the Denton County Cold Case Unit. Sarah Chen has been a detective for 19 years, the last 7 focused exclusively on cold cases. She's learned that most of these cases don't solve themselves through dramatic breakthroughs. They solve through patience, through new technology, through someone finally deciding to talk. When her phone rings at 2:47 p.m. on that June afternoon, she's working on a different case entirely, a 1987 missing person that's yielded nothing but dead ends and frustration. Chen, she answers, her voice carrying the weariness of someone who's spent too many hours staring at old reports. Detective Chen, this is Miguel Aranda at the Center for Human Identification. I'm calling about case 95-03717. I think we might have something. Sarah's attention sharpens. She knows that number. She's reviewed that file a dozen times over the past 2 years since she inherited it from a retiring colleague. Unidentified female remains, approximately 15 to 18 years old, discovered in a rural area outside Denton. The remains had been there for roughly 3 years before discovery. Cause of death, blunt force trauma to the skull. Manner of death, homicide. No identification. No matches in missing persons databases. No leads. Just another Jane Doe in a system that has too many of them. What do you have? Sarah asks, already reaching for the file. Synthetic fiber, automotive origin, Chrysler electric blue. Found adhered to the femur. It survived because it was trapped between the bone and the container wall, protected from degradation. I'm thinking vehicle interior, possibly truck carpeting based on the weave pattern and industrial grade of the fiber. Sarah feels something stir in her chest. Hope is dangerous in this work. Hope leads to disappointment more often than it leads to resolution. But she can't help it. How confident are you on the color match? Very. I've already run it through the database. Chrysler electric blue was used primarily on Dodge Ram trucks between 1992 and 1996. It was a limited run color. Not many vehicles would have had this exact shade in their interior carpeting. Sarah is already thinking through the implications. A body buried sometime in 1995, based on decomposition estimates. A fiber from a truck manufactured between 92 and 96. It fits. I'm coming down there, she says. Don't move anything. I want to see this myself. 40 minutes later, Sarah is standing in Miguel's lab, staring at the fiber under magnification. It looks impossibly small to be so important. Just a thread. Just a fragment. But she's been doing this long enough to know that cases break on fragments. Cases solve because of threads. Tell me about the original discovery, Miguel says, pulling up the case file on his computer screen. Sarah recites from memory. August 9, 1998. 2 hikers found the remains in a shallow grave approximately 3 miles off County Road 42. The grave was partially exposed due to erosion from heavy rains that summer. Initial investigation revealed skeletal remains consistent with a female victim, age 15 to 18, height approximately 5'3". Dental records were obtained but yielded no matches. DNA was extracted, but this was 1998, so the databases were limited. Nothing came of it. What about missing persons from that time frame? Miguel asks. Dozens, Sarah says flatly. This is Texas. We've got missing persons going back decades with no resolution. The problem is that without identification, we couldn't narrow down which missing person might match these remains. We tried. Believe me, we tried. Every missing girl reported in Texas between 1993 and 1998 was compared. Nothing matched. Miguel nods slowly. What if the answer isn't in Texas? Sarah looks at him sharply. You think she was brought here from somewhere else? I think it's possible. If someone wanted to dispose of a body where it wouldn't be easily connected to a missing person case, taking it across state lines would be smart. It fractures the investigation, makes it harder to connect the dots. Sarah considers this. It's a theory that's been floated before, but without evidence to support it, it remained just that. A theory. So we're looking for a missing girl from out of state and a Dodge Ram truck with electric blue interior. That's still a hell of a haystack. Maybe, Miguel says. But now we've got something we didn't have before. Physical evidence that can potentially link a vehicle to this crime. If we can find missing persons cases from 1995 involving girls who fit our victim's profile, and if any of those cases mention a suspect with a blue Dodge Ram, we might have our connection. Sarah feels that dangerous hope rising again. I'll start with neighboring states. New Mexico, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Arkansas. Poll every missing person case from 95 involving females aged 15 to 18. See if any of them mention a blue truck. I'll keep processing the remains, Miguel says. There might be more here we've missed. Sarah nods and heads for the door, but Miguel's voice stops her. Detective? I've got a good feeling about this one. Sarah turns back, offers him a tired smile. I hope you're right. This girl's been waiting a long time for someone to care enough to find out who she was. The drive back to her office takes 20 minutes. Sarah spends it thinking about Jane Doe 95-03717. Thinking about a girl who walked out of her life one day and never came back. Thinking about parents who might still be waiting, still hoping, still checking their phones every time it rings, wondering if this will be the call that brings their daughter home. Back at her desk, Sarah opens the National Missing and Unidentified Persons System, known as NAMUS. She sets her search parameters. Female, age 15 to 18, missing between January 1, 1995 and December 31, 1995. Geographic region, states bordering Texas. The system thinks for a moment, then populates a list. 47 cases. 47 girls who vanished in 1995 and were never found. Sarah starts reading. Case number 1, Jennifer Martinez, 17, last seen in Albuquerque, New Mexico, April 3, 1995. Brown hair, brown eyes, 5'2". She was walking home from school. She never arrived. There's a note in the file about a blue truck seen in the area around the time of her disappearance. Sarah's pulse quickens. She marks the file. Case number 2, Amy Thornton, 16, last seen in Tulsa, Oklahoma, May 19, 1995. Blonde hair, blue eyes, 5'4". She was at a convenience store. Surveillance footage showed her getting into a vehicle described as a dark-colored pickup truck. The footage was too grainy to identify the make or model. Sarah marks this file too. She continues through the list. Some cases have minimal information. Some have extensive notes but no useful leads. Some mention vehicles, but none of them blue trucks. By the time she reaches case number 19, her eyes are burning from staring at the screen, and her coffee has gone cold. Case number 19, Sophia Rodriguez. Sarah almost scrolls past it. Almost. But something makes her pause. Maybe it's the date. June 17, 1995. Maybe it's the description. 16 years old, Hispanic female, 5'3", brown hair, brown eyes. Maybe it's the location. Last seen in Amarillo, Texas, which isn't a bordering state because it's Texas, but it's far enough from Denton that a connection wouldn't have been obvious. Sarah clicks into the full case file. Sofia Rodriguez was last seen leaving her home in the North Heights neighborhood of Amarillo at approximately 3:15 p.m. on June 17, 1995. She told her mother she was going to her friend Monica's house, 3 blocks away, to study for a history exam. She was wearing a white t-shirt, denim shorts, and white sneakers. She was carrying a backpack with her textbooks. She never arrived at Monica's house. Monica called Sofia's home at 4:30 p.m. asking if Sofia was still coming. That's when Sofia's mother, Maria Rodriguez, realized her daughter was missing. She called the police at 4:45 p.m. An immediate search was launched. The 3-block route between Sofia's home and Monica's house was canvassed. No one had seen her. No witnesses. No evidence. No leads. The case went cold within weeks. Sarah reads through the investigators' notes. There's mention of a few persons of interest, all cleared. There's mention of the usual theories. Runaway. Abduction. Foul play. But nothing concrete. Nothing that led anywhere. The case file is thick with reports, but thin on answers. Then, buried in a supplemental report dated June 23, 1995, 6 days after Sofia vanished, Sarah finds it. A witness statement from a man named Robert Callahan, who lived 2 blocks from Sofia's house. Callahan reported that on the afternoon of June 17, he saw a blue pickup truck parked on the street near the corner of Ross Street and 24th Avenue, which was along the route Sofia would have taken to Monica's house. Callahan remembered the truck because it seemed out of place. It was clean. Too clean for that neighborhood, where most vehicles were workhorses covered in dust and dents. He noticed it around 3:15, and it was gone by the time he looked again around 3:45. Callahan couldn't provide a make or model. Just that it was blue and it was a pickup truck. Sarah feels her heart rate increase. She reads the rest of the report. The investigating officer followed up on the blue truck lead. Canvassed the neighborhood, asked around. No one else remembered seeing it. No one could provide additional details. The lead went nowhere. The case went cold. Sofia Rodriguez became another missing person statistic. Her face ended up on flyers that faded in the Texas sun. Her mother made tearful appeals on local news broadcasts that fewer and fewer people watched. Eventually, the active investigation ceased. The file went into storage. Sofia became a ghost. But now, 30 years later, that blue truck is back. That blue truck might be the link that's been missing all along. Sarah picks up her phone and calls Miguel. "I think I found her," she says. Sofia Rodriguez. 16 years old. Missing from Amarillo on June 17, 1995. There was a witness who saw a blue pickup truck in the area around the time she disappeared. Amarillo, Miguel says thoughtfully. That's what, 350 miles from where the remains were found? About that. Which would explain why no one connected them. Different jurisdictions, different databases, and this was before everything was centralized. If someone grabbed her in Amarillo and drove her to Denton to dispose of the body, there'd be no obvious connection. Do we have DNA on file for Sofia Rodriguez? Miguel asks. I'll find out. If her family submitted samples, we can compare them to Jane Doe. If it's a match, we've got our identification. And if it's a match, Miguel says, then we start looking for everyone in Sofia Rodriguez's life who owned a blue Dodge Ram truck in 1995. Sarah can hear the energy in his voice. The hunt is on. I'll contact Amarillo PD, get access to the original case file, and reach out to the family about DNA comparison. This could be it, Miguel. This could finally be it. After she hangs up, Sarah sits for a moment, staring at Sofia Rodriguez's photo in the case file. It's a school picture, probably from her sophomore year. Sofia is smiling, her dark hair pulled back, her eyes bright with the kind of hope and possibility that belongs to someone who thinks they have their whole life ahead of them. Sarah wonders what Sophia was thinking about that day when she walked out of her house to study with her friend. Was she thinking about the history exam? About summer plans? About some boy she liked? Was she thinking about anything at all, or was she just existing in that thoughtless teenage way, where the future is assumed and the present is all that matters? She couldn't have known she had less than 30 minutes left. Couldn't have known that someone was waiting, watching, planning. Couldn't have known that a blue pickup truck would be the last thing she'd ever see. If you're still watching at this point, drop a comment with, "I'm still here." Let's see who's truly following this shocking story. And if this case is gripping you the way it's gripping me, hit that like button. Every like helps us bring more forgotten voices back into the light. Now, let's find out what happened next. Sarah spends the next 2 hours coordinating with Amarillo PD. The original investigating officer, Detective Frank Morrison, retired in 2008 and passed away in 2015. The case file was transferred to digital records in 2012, but much of the physical evidence remained in storage. Sarah requests access to everything. She wants to see it all. Every report, every witness statement, every piece of evidence collected. She wants to understand Sophia Rodriguez's life, her world, the people in her orbit. Somewhere in that information is the person who took her. Somewhere in those files is a name. A connection. A lead that was missed the first time around. By 6 p.m., Sarah has authorization to travel to Amarillo. By 7 p.m., she's in her car heading west on Interstate 40. The drive will take about 6 hours. She could wait until morning, could make the trip during business hours, but she doesn't want to wait. She's chased too many cold cases to waste time when momentum is building. She's learned that cases have rhythms, have moments when they're ready to break, and pushing through those moments is what separates solved from unsolved. The Texas landscape rolls past in the darkness. Flat. Endless. Punctuated by the occasional lights of small towns that appear and disappear like fireflies. Sarah drives and thinks. She thinks about Sophia Rodriguez. She thinks about what it means to vanish. To be erased from the world as if you never existed. To become a question mark in people's memories instead of a person. She thinks about Maria Rodriguez, Sophia's mother. According to the case file, Maria still lives in Amarillo. Still lives in the same house she lived in when her daughter disappeared. Sarah wonders if Maria still waits sometimes. If she still catches herself listening for footsteps that will never come. If she still sets the table for one more person out of habit before remembering. Grief is strange that way. It embeds itself in routines, in muscle memory, in the small unconscious gestures that define daily life. Sarah arrives in Amarillo at 1:15 a.m. She checks into a motel near the police station and tries to sleep but can't. Her mind won't stop working, won't stop piecing together fragments of information, won't stop seeing Sophia Rodriguez's smile in that school photograph. At 5:30 a.m., she gives up, takes a shower, and drives to a 24-hour diner for coffee and breakfast. At 7:45 a.m., she's waiting outside Amarillo Police Department when the doors unlock. Detective Luis Vargas meets her in the lobby. He's the current cold case investigator, a man in his mid-50s with tired eyes and a firm handshake. "Detective Chen," he says. "I pulled everything we have on Sophia Rodriguez. It's waiting for you in the conference room." The conference room is small and windowless. On the table are 3 cardboard boxes, each labeled with case numbers and dates. Sarah thanks Vargas and gets to work. She starts with the initial reports. The missing person report filed by Maria Rodriguez. The first responder's notes. The early witness canvas. She reads methodically, taking notes, building a timeline in her head. June 17, 1995. 3:15 p.m. Sophia leaves home. 3:20 p.m., estimated. Sofia would have been approximately halfway to Monica's house, walking along 24th Avenue. 3:15 to 3:45 p.m. Blue pickup truck observed parked on the street along Sofia's route. 3:45 p.m. Truck is gone. 4:30 p.m. Monica calls asking about Sofia. 4:45 p.m. Maria calls police. 5 p.m. onwards. Search begins. Sarah moves to the witness statements. Robert Callahan's statement about the blue truck. Monica's statement about expecting Sofia. Statements from neighbors who saw nothing, heard nothing, knew nothing. Then she finds something interesting. A statement from a boy named David Chen, no relation, who lived on the same block as Sofia. David told police he saw Sofia that afternoon, walking past his house around 3:15 or 3:20. He remembered because he was working on his car in the driveway and looked up when she passed. He waved. She waved back. She kept walking. David Chen was 17 at the time. He's 47 now, if he's still alive. Sarah makes a note to track him down. Not because she suspects him of anything, but because he might remember more details now than he did then. Memory is strange. Sometimes distance brings clarity. She continues reading. There's a section on potential suspects. Family members were ruled out quickly. Sofia's father had died when she was 12. She had no siblings. Her mother worked as a nurse at a local hospital and was at work when Sofia disappeared, confirmed by multiple witnesses. Extended family members were interviewed and cleared. Then there's a section on known sex offenders living in the area. 3 men. All interviewed. All had alibis. All cleared. Then there's a name that catches Sarah's attention. Thomas Brennan. Age 32 in 1995. Lived 4 blocks from Sofia's house. Worked as a mechanic at a local garage. No criminal record, but he appeared in the file because a neighbor reported that he gave off bad vibes and stared at teenage girls. The investigating officer interviewed Brennan on June 22, 1995. Brennan denied knowing Sofia, denied ever seeing her, and stated he was at work all day on June 17. His employer confirmed this. Brennan was cleared. But there's a note at the bottom of the report. Subject owns a blue 1993 Dodge Ram truck. Sarah's breath catches. She reads the note again. Blue. Dodge Ram. 1993. That's the right make, the right model, the right time frame for Chrysler Electric blue interior. Her hands are shaking slightly as she flips through the rest of the file, looking for any follow-up on Thomas Brennan. There's nothing. He was interviewed once, alibi confirmed, and then the investigation moved on. Why? Why didn't they look harder at a man who owned the exact type of vehicle seen near where Sofia disappeared? Sarah knows why. It's the same reason 1,000 leads don't get fully pursued in 1,000 investigations. Limited resources. Limited time. An alibi that seemed solid. No physical evidence linking him to the crime. No witnesses placing him at the scene. Just a vague suspicion from a neighbor and a truck that matched a basic description. It wasn't enough. Not in 1995. Not without something more concrete. But now, 30 years later, there's something more concrete. There's a fiber. A fiber that forensically links a victim to a vehicle. If that vehicle was Thomas Brennan's truck, everything changes. Sarah reaches for her phone and calls Detective Vargas. I need everything you can find on a Thomas Brennan. White male, born approximately 1963. Lived in Amarillo in 1995. Worked as a mechanic. Owned a blue Dodge Ram truck. I need current address, employment, criminal history, everything. You think he's good for this? Vargas asks. I think he needs a second look. The first investigation cleared him based on an alibi, but he owned the right truck. We've got physical evidence now that might link that truck to our victim. I want to know where he is and what he's been doing for the last 30 years. I'll get on it, Vargas says. Give me a couple hours. Sarah hangs up and continues reading. She goes through every page of the file, looking for anything else about Thomas Brennan, anything else about blue trucks, anything that might have been overlooked or dismissed. She finds a few more mentions of the blue truck. One witness who thought they might have seen it in the area, a few times, in the weeks before Sofia disappeared but couldn't be sure. Another witness who thought they saw a similar truck near the park where teenagers hung out, but again, no certainty, no details. Then, at the bottom of box 2, Sarah finds the evidence log. A list of physical items collected during the investigation. Sofia's backpack, found in a dumpster 2 miles from her house 3 days after she disappeared. The contents: textbooks, notebooks, pens, a calculator. No forensic evidence of value. No prints besides Sofia's. No biological material. The backpack yielded nothing. There's a note that it was stored as evidence but could be released to the family if requested. As far as Sarah can tell, it never was. It's probably still sitting in an evidence locker somewhere, a sad remnant of a girl who never came home. By noon, Sarah has read every document in all 3 boxes. She's made 17 pages of notes. She's created a timeline, a suspect list, a list of people to interview, and a list of questions that need answers. At the top of her suspect list, circled 3 times, is Thomas Brennan. Her phone rings. It's Vargas. I've got information on your guy, he says. Thomas Allen Brennan, born July 9, 1962. He's 63 now. Still alive. Currently living in Flagstaff, Arizona. Moved there in 1998. He's worked a series of mechanic jobs over the years. Currently employed at a quick lube franchise. No criminal record. No arrests. Clean as a whistle, at least on paper. 1998, Sarah says. He moved in 98. That's the same year our Jane Doe was found. Could be coincidence, Vargas says, but his tone suggests he doesn't believe that any more than Sarah does. What about the truck? Do we have any record of what happened to his 1993 Dodge Ram? Working on that. DMV records from that era are spotty, especially for vehicles that changed hands privately. I've got someone digging through what we have. I'll let you know. Sarah thanks him and ends the call. She sits for a moment, thinking. Thomas Brennan moved to Arizona in 1998. 3 years after Sophia Rodriguez disappeared. The same year unidentified remains were discovered outside Denton. It could be coincidence. People move for all sorts of reasons. Jobs, family, fresh starts. But the timing is interesting. Worth noting. Worth investigating. She pulls out her laptop and starts searching for more information on Thomas Brennan. Social media, public records, anything that might give her insight into who he is now, who he was then. She finds very little. He doesn't appear to have Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. There's a LinkedIn profile, but it's sparse. Just a list of jobs and dates. No photo. No personal information. A ghost online, which is unusual for someone his age but not unheard of. She finds a property record showing he owns a small house in Flagstaff. Purchased in 2003. Mortgage paid off in 2015. She finds a voter registration record. Registered independent. She finds nothing that tells her who Thomas Brennan really is. Nothing that tells her if he's a man who's been living quietly with a terrible secret for 30 years, or just a mechanic who wanted a change of scenery. There's only one way to find out. Sarah books a flight to Flagstaff. The earliest she can get is tomorrow morning. She spends the rest of the afternoon coordinating with Miguel and preparing for the trip. She needs to approach this carefully. She can't just show up at Thomas Brennan's door and accuse him of murder. She has no evidence. Not yet. What she has is a fiber from a truck that might be his and a timeline that's suspicious but not proof. She needs to be smart about this. She needs to get him talking. That evening, Sarah drives to the North Heights neighborhood where Sophia Rodriguez lived. It's changed in 30 years. Some of the houses have been renovated. Others look like they've been slowly decaying since 1995. The streets are quieter than they probably were back then. Fewer kids playing outside. More cars in driveways. The slow erosion of a community that's aged and changed and forgotten what it used to be. Sarah parks on 24th Avenue and walks the route Sophia would have taken. 3 blocks. It takes her less than 5 minutes at a leisurely pace. She tries to imagine what it was like on that June afternoon. Hot. The Texas sun beating down. A teenage girl in a white t-shirt and denim shorts, backpack over her shoulder, walking to study with her friend. Thinking about her history exam maybe. Thinking about nothing maybe. Just walking. Just existing. Just being 16 and alive and unaware that someone was watching. Sarah reaches the corner where Robert Callahan reported seeing the blue truck. She looks around. It's a residential street. Houses on both sides. Trees providing some shade. A normal neighborhood where normal people live normal lives. Except 30 years ago, something abnormal happened here. Something terrible. And no one saw. No one heard. No one stopped it. She stands there for a long time, trying to feel something, trying to connect with what happened here, trying to understand. But there's nothing. Just a street. Just houses. Just the sound of a dog barking somewhere in the distance. The past doesn't leave marks that are visible to the eye. It leaves marks in other ways. In cold case files. In grieving mothers. In forensic specialists who find fibers that shouldn't exist. Sarah gets back in her car and drives to the address listed for Maria Rodriguez. The house is small, well-maintained, painted a cheerful yellow. There are flowers in the front garden. A porch swing. It looks like a place where someone has tried very hard to keep living despite unimaginable loss. Sarah sits in her car for a few minutes, gathering her courage. This is the hardest part of the job. Talking to the families. Bringing up old pain. Offering hope that might lead to nothing but more disappointment. But it has to be done. Sarah walks up to the door and knocks. A moment later, it opens. The woman who answers is in her early 70s, small and slender with gray hair and eyes that have seen too much sorrow. "Can I help you?" she asks. "Mrs. Rodriguez?" "My name is Detective Sarah Chen. I'm with the Denton County Cold Case Unit. I'm here about your daughter, Sofia. May I come in?" Maria Rodriguez's face goes pale. Her hand clutches the doorframe. "You found her," she whispers. "I think we might have," Sarah says gently. "That's what I need to talk to you about." Maria steps aside, and Sarah enters the house. Inside, it's exactly what Sarah expected. A shrine to a missing girl. Photos everywhere. Sofia as a baby. Sofia as a child. Sofia as a teenager. Sofia frozen in time, forever 16, forever smiling. The living room is neat and tidy, but there's a quality to it that speaks of a life lived in pause. Waiting. Always waiting. They sit in the living room. Maria offers coffee. Sarah declines. She wants to do this quickly, cleanly, before her courage fails. Mrs. Rodriguez, in 1998, unidentified human remains were discovered outside Denton, Texas. At the time, we weren't able to identify the victim. But new forensic technology has allowed us to re-examine the evidence. We have reason to believe these remains might be Sofia. Maria's hand goes to her mouth. Tears fill her eyes, but she doesn't look away. How sure are you? Not completely sure yet, Sarah says honestly. That's why I'm here. We need a DNA sample from you to make a comparison. If you're willing. Of course, Maria says immediately. Whatever you need. Just tell me what happened to her. Please. I've waited 30 years to know what happened to my baby. I can't tell you yet, Sarah says. Not until we confirm the identification. But if these remains are Sofia's, then we have evidence that might help us find who did this. We have a lead we're following. A real lead. It's not much, but it's more than we've had in a very long time. Maria nods, wiping tears from her face. She was just going to study, she says, her voice breaking. Just 3 blocks. I told her to be home by dinner. She said she would be. She always kept her promises. Always. So when she didn't come home, I knew something was wrong. I knew my baby didn't run away. I knew someone took her. But no one believed me. They thought she ran away. They thought she'd come back. But I knew. A mother knows. Sarah reaches out and takes Maria's hand. I believe you, she says. And I promise you, if we can bring you answers, we will. But I need that DNA sample. Take it, Maria says. Take whatever you need. Sarah performs a buccal swab, collects the sample, and fills out the chain of custody paperwork. She gives Maria her card and promises to call the moment they have confirmation. As she's leaving, Maria stops her at the door. Detective? The person who did this. Are they still out there? Sarah thinks about Thomas Brennan, living quietly in Flagstaff. I don't know yet, she says. But if they are, we're going to find them. Sarah drives back to Denton through the night. She arrives at 4 a.m., sleeps for 3 hours, and then heads to the lab to deliver Maria Rodriguez's DNA sample to Miguel. Rush this, she tells him. I need to know if we have a match before I get on that plane to Flagstaff. I'll have it done by end of day, Miguel promises. Sarah goes home, showers, packs a bag, and then spends the rest of the day preparing for her trip. She reviews everything she knows about Thomas Brennan. She prepares questions. She thinks through approaches. How do you get a man to confess to a murder he committed 30 years ago? How do you break through 3 decades of silence? At 5:30 p.m., her phone rings. It's Miguel. We have a match, he says. The DNA comparison is conclusive. Jane Doe 95-03717 is Sofia Rodriguez. Sarah closes her eyes. She feels relief and sorrow in equal measure. Relief that they've given Sofia her name back. Sorrow for Maria Rodriguez, who's waited 30 years for confirmation of what she already knew in her heart. Thank you, Miguel. I'll call Mrs. Rodriguez and let her know. There's more, Miguel says. I kept processing the remains. I found additional fibers. Same color, same composition, same source. They were embedded in the soil around the burial site. Whoever put her in that grave tracked those fibers with them. That truck was definitely at the scene. That's good, Sarah says. That's really good. The more physical evidence we have, the better our case. She hangs up and immediately calls Maria Rodriguez. The conversation is brief and painful. Maria cries. Sarah cries. There are no words adequate for this moment, so Sarah doesn't try to find them. She just listens as a mother mourns her daughter for the second time, mourns the loss of hope even though hope was already gone, mourns the finality of it all. We're going to find who did this, Sarah promises again. I swear to you, Mrs. Rodriguez. We're going to bring you justice. That night, Sarah barely sleeps. She keeps seeing Sophia's face in that school photograph. Keeps thinking about those 3 blocks. Keeps thinking about Thomas Brennan and his blue Dodge Ram truck. By the time her alarm goes off at 5 a.m., she's already awake, already dressed, already ready. The flight to Flagstaff takes 3 hours with a connection in Phoenix. Sarah spends the time reviewing her notes, rehearsing her approach. She can't arrest Thomas Brennan. She has no warrant, no probable cause that would hold up in court. Not yet. What she has is a fiber that matches his truck type and a timeline that's suspicious. She needs more. She needs him to give her more. She lands in Flagstaff at 1:15 p.m. local time. She rents a car and drives to the address Vargas gave her for Thomas Brennan. It's a modest house in a working-class neighborhood. The yard is neat but unremarkable. There's a newer model Toyota Camry in the driveway. No sign of the blue Dodge Ram, but Sarah didn't expect there would be. That truck is long gone, probably sold or scrapped years ago. Sarah sits in her car for a moment, watching the house. No movement. No sign of life. She checks the time. 2:45 p.m. on a Tuesday. If Brennan works regular hours, he won't be home yet. She decides to wait. She wants to catch him at home, in his space, where he feels comfortable and safe. People talk more when they're comfortable. People make mistakes when they think they're safe. At 4:20 p.m., the Toyota Camry pulls into the driveway. A man gets out. He's in his early 60s, average height, slightly overweight, graying hair. He's wearing work clothes, coveralls with a Quick Lube logo. He looks tired. He looks ordinary. He looks like 1,000 other men his age who work blue-collar jobs and live quiet lives. He looks like someone who could have killed a 16-year-old girl 30 years ago and never lost a moment's sleep over it. Sarah gets out of her car and approaches. "Thomas Brennan," she calls out. He turns, surprised. His eyes take her in. A woman, professional clothes, purposeful stride. His expression shifts from surprise to wariness. "Who's asking?" Sarah pulls out her badge. "Detective Sarah Chen, Denton County Cold Case Unit. I need to ask you some questions about an old case. Do you have a few minutes?" The wariness intensifies. "What case? Can we talk inside?" Sarah asks. She wants to get him in the house, where he can't easily walk away, where the conversation can develop naturally. "I'd rather talk out here," Brennan says. He crosses his arms over his chest. Defensive posture. Not necessarily guilty, but definitely uncomfortable. "That's fine," Sarah says, keeping her tone friendly, non-confrontational. "I'm investigating a cold case from 1995 in Amarillo. A missing girl named Sophia Rodriguez. You were interviewed as part of the original investigation. I'm just following up on some details." Brennan's face doesn't change. No visible reaction. No flash of recognition or fear or guilt. Just a blank look. "That was 30 years ago," he says. "I don't remember much about it." "That's understandable," Sarah says. "But maybe I can refresh your memory." Sophia Rodriguez disappeared on June 17, 1995. She was 16 years old. She was last seen walking in the North Heights neighborhood, which was near where you lived at the time. Do you remember being interviewed about her disappearance? Vaguely, Brennan says. The police talked to a lot of people back then. I didn't know anything. I told them that. You owned a blue 1993 Dodge Ram truck at the time, is that correct? Something flickers across Brennan's face. Just for a second. Then it's gone. Yeah, I had a truck. So what? Lots of people had trucks. A witness reported seeing a blue pickup truck parked near where Sofia was last seen, right around the time she disappeared. Your truck matched that description. Coincidence, Brennan says flatly. I was at work that day. They checked. They cleared me. I know they did, Sarah says. I've read the file. Your employer confirmed you were at work. But I'm wondering if you might remember anything else from that time. Anything that might help us. You see, we've identified some new evidence. Physical evidence that links Sofia's remains to a vehicle. Now there's a reaction. Brennan's jaw tightens. His eyes narrow slightly. Remains? You found her? We did. In 1998. It took us this long to identify her, but we're certain now. And we have forensic evidence that places her in contact with a blue Dodge Ram truck with electric blue interior. The same type of truck you owned. Brennan is quiet for a long moment. Sarah can see him thinking, calculating, trying to decide how to play this. Finally, he says, I sold that truck in 1996. Sold it to some guy for cash. I don't remember his name. Didn't keep records. That's convenient, Sarah says. It's the truth, Brennan snaps. And unless you've got something more than some old fiber and a guess, I think we're done here. We're not done, Sarah says. Because here's what I think happened. I think you saw Sophia Rodriguez that day. I think you offered her a ride. Maybe she knew you from the neighborhood. Maybe she trusted you. I think she got in your truck. And then something went wrong. Maybe you made a move and she rejected you. Maybe you panicked. Maybe it was always the plan. But somehow, Sofia ended up dead. And you drove her body 350 miles to Denton and buried her in a shallow grave off County Road 42. Brennan's face has gone red. You're out of your mind. I didn't touch that girl. I didn't even know her. Then why did you move to Arizona in 1998? Sarah presses. Right after her body was discovered. That's an interesting coincidence, don't you think? I moved for a job opportunity, Brennan says. And I don't have to explain myself to you. If you had real evidence, you'd have a warrant. You'd have arrested me already. But you don't. You've got nothing. So unless you're charging me with something, get off my property. Sarah holds his gaze. She can see the anger there, the defensiveness, but she can't see guilt. Not yet. Either he's innocent, or he's had 30 years to perfect his denial. I'm going to find out what happened, she says quietly. I'm going to connect you to that truck, to that fiber, to Sofia Rodriguez. And when I do, I'm coming back with handcuffs. Good luck with that, Brennan says. He turns and walks into his house, slamming the door behind him. Sarah stands in the driveway for a moment, her heart pounding. That didn't go the way she hoped. She didn't get a confession. She didn't get anything useful. But she got a reaction. She got defensiveness and anger. She got a man who knows more than he's saying. She walks back to her car and sits for a moment, collecting her thoughts. She needs more. She needs the truck. She needs to prove that the fiber came from Brennan's specific vehicle. She needs witnesses, records, something concrete that ties him to the crime. The fiber is good, but it's not enough. A defense attorney would tear it apart. Lots of trucks had electric blue interiors. Without proving it was his specific truck, the fiber is circumstantial at best. She calls Detective Vargas in Amarillo. I talked to Brennan. He's not cooperating. Claims he sold the truck in '96 for cash to someone whose name he doesn't remember. I need you to dig deeper. Find out if anyone remembers that truck. Find out who he sold it to, if he really did sell it. Check salvage yards, junkyards, DMV records. Someone has to remember that truck. I'm on it, Vargas says. I've also been looking into Brennan's work history. There's something interesting. In June of 1995, right around the time Sofia disappeared, Brennan took 3 days off work. June 16th, 17th, and 18th. His employer's records show it as vacation time. Sarah's pulse quickens. He told the original investigators he was at work on June 17th. His employer confirmed it in 95. But I pulled the actual time sheets from the company's archives. They shut down in 2006, but the records were transferred to the new owner. The time sheets clearly show Brennan was off those 3 days. So his alibi was a lie, Sarah says. Looks that way. Either his employer made a mistake back in 95, or Brennan lied and no one caught it. Why would the employer make that mistake? Sarah asks. I talked to the son of the original owner. He said his father was old school, kept sloppy records, relied on memory a lot. It's possible he genuinely misremembered when the police asked. Or it's possible Brennan told him what to say. This changes things. If Brennan lied about his alibi, that's consciousness of guilt. That's evidence. Get me documentation of those time sheets. I want copies. I want affidavits. I want everything official and court-ready. Already working on it, Vargas says. Sarah hangs up and sits in her car, watching Brennan's house. The lights are on inside. She can see his shadow moving past the windows. He's pacing. Agitated. Good. Let him be agitated. Let him worry. Let him wonder how much she knows, what evidence she has, how close she is to putting him in handcuffs. She starts the car and drives to a motel near the airport. She's not leaving Flagstaff yet. She's going to stay close, keep the pressure on, see what shakes loose. She checks in, calls Miguel with an update, and then spends the evening researching Thomas Brennan's life in Arizona. Where he's worked, where he's lived, who he's associated with. She's looking for patterns, for red flags, for anything that suggests he might have hurt someone else. She finds nothing. No complaints, no incidents, no police contact of any kind. Thomas Brennan has been a model citizen in Arizona for 27 years. He pays his taxes, votes in elections, keeps his lawn mowed. He's invisible in the best possible way. Which means either he's genuinely innocent and she's barking up the wrong tree, or he learned his lesson after Sophia Rodriguez and never made the same mistake again. The next morning, Sarah drives back to Brennan's house. She doesn't knock on the door. She just parks across the street and waits. She wants him to see her. She wants him to know she's not going away. At 7:15 a.m., Brennan comes out of his house. He sees her car immediately. Their eyes meet. He stands on his porch for a long moment, just staring at her. Then he gets in his Toyota and drives to work. Sarah follows him. She follows him to the quick lube, watches him go inside, and then parks where she can see the entrance. She's not sure what she's hoping for. Maybe that he'll panic. Maybe that he'll run. Maybe that he'll do something stupid that gives her the evidence she needs. But Brennan doesn't do anything. He goes to work. He stays at work. At 5:30 p.m., he leaves work and drives home. Sarah follows. This becomes the pattern for the next 3 days. Sarah watches Brennan's house in the morning. She follows him to work. She sits in the parking lot all day. She follows him home. She parks across the street and watches until late at night. On the 4th day, Brennan breaks pattern. Instead of going straight home after work, he drives to a bar on the south side of Flagstaff. Sarah follows. She parks and watches as Brennan goes inside. After 20 minutes, she follows him in. The bar is dimly lit, sparsely populated. Brennan is sitting at the far end, nursing a beer. Sarah sits at the bar, orders a water, and watches him in the mirror behind the bottles. He's not looking at her. He's staring at his beer, lost in thought. After another 10 minutes, he pulls out his phone and makes a call. Sarah wishes she could hear the conversation, but she's too far away. She watches Brennan's reflection. His body language is tense. The conversation is brief. Less than a minute. Then he hangs up, finishes his beer, and leaves. Sarah waits a beat, then follows. Brennan drives home. Sarah follows. But this time, when Brennan pulls into his driveway, he doesn't get out of the car. He just sits there, hands on the steering wheel, staring straight ahead. Sarah watches him. 5 minutes pass. 10. Finally, Brennan gets out of the car and walks to Sarah's rental. He taps on her window. Sarah rolls it down. "You're not going to stop, are you?" Brennan says. He sounds tired. Defeated. "No," Sarah says simply. Brennan looks away, down the street, anywhere but at her. "I didn't kill her," he says quietly. "But I know who did." Sarah's heart nearly stops. She forces herself to stay calm, to keep her voice steady. "Then tell me." Brennan is quiet for a long moment. Then he says, "Not here. Not like this. Give me 24 hours. I need to think about some things. Make some arrangements." "I can't do that," Sarah says. "If you have information about Sophia Rodriguez's murder, you need to tell me now." 24 hours, Brennan repeats. "That's all I'm asking. I'll tell you everything. But I need 24 hours. Sarah studies his face. He looks broken. Haunted. Like a man who's been carrying a weight for 30 years and is finally ready to set it down. "If you run, I will find you," she says. "And it will be so much worse for you." "I'm not going to run," Brennan says. "I'm done running. I've been running for 30 years. I'm tired." He walks back to his house. Sarah sits in her car, mind racing. Is this a trick? Is he buying time to destroy evidence, to flee, to get his story straight? Or is he genuinely ready to talk? She doesn't know. But she also doesn't have a choice. She can't force him to talk without arresting him, and she doesn't have enough evidence to arrest him. Not yet. She calls Detective Vargas. "I need surveillance on Thomas Brennan. I need to know if he leaves his house, makes any unusual calls, contacts anyone. Can you coordinate with Flagstaff PD?" "I'll make it happen," Vargas says. "What's going on?" "He says he knows who killed Sophia Rodriguez. He says he'll tell me in 24 hours. I don't know if he's legit or if he's playing me." "My money's on playing you," Vargas says. "But we'll keep eyes on him. If he so much as sneezes wrong, we'll know about it." Sarah hangs up and drives back to her motel. She doesn't sleep. She spends the night staring at the ceiling, running through scenarios in her head. What if Brennan runs? What if he's destroying evidence right now? What if he's the killer and she just gave him a 24-hour head start? But her instincts tell her something different. Her instincts tell her that Brennan is telling the truth. Not about being innocent necessarily, but about being ready to talk. About being tired. About carrying a secret for 30 years and finally wanting to let it go. The next 24 hours are the longest of Sarah's life. She receives updates from the surveillance team. Brennan doesn't leave his house. He doesn't make any calls. He doesn't have any visitors. He just stays inside. Waiting. Like she's waiting. At exactly 5 p.m. the next day, 24 hours after their conversation, Sarah's phone rings. It's a number she doesn't recognize. Local area code. "Detective Chen," she answers. "It's Tom Brennan." Can you meet me at my house in 1 hour? I'll be there, Sarah says. She drives to Brennan's house. She calls Vargas on the way, tells him what's happening. I've got units standing by, Vargas says. If this goes sideways, we can be there in 3 minutes. Thanks, Sarah says. But I don't think it's going to go sideways. I think he's going to talk. She pulls up to Brennan's house at exactly 6 p.m. Brennan is waiting on the front porch. He looks like he's aged 10 years in the past 24 hours. He gestures for Sarah to come inside. The house is neat and sparse. Minimal furniture, minimal decoration. The home of a man who doesn't want to accumulate anything, doesn't want to put down roots. They sit in the living room. Brennan in a worn armchair, Sarah on the couch. For a long moment, neither of them speaks. Then Brennan says, her name was Sophia Rodriguez. She was 16 years old. And I helped bury her body in a field outside Denton, Texas, on June 18, 1995. Sarah's hand moves instinctively to her recording app on her phone. I need to record this conversation. And I need to read you your rights. I know, Brennan says. Do what you need to do. Sarah reads him his Miranda rights. Brennan waves them. She starts recording. Please state your name for the record. Thomas Allen Brennan. And you're voluntarily giving this statement? Yes. Tell me what happened on June 17, 1995. Brennan takes a deep breath. I didn't kill Sophia Rodriguez. But I was there. I helped cover it up. And I've been living with that guilt every day for 30 years. Who killed her? Sarah asks. My brother, Brennan says. David Brennan. He was my younger brother. He was 28 at the time. He had problems. Mental health issues, violent tendencies. Our parents tried to get him help, but back then, there wasn't much available. He'd been in and out of hospitals. He'd take his medication for a while, seem to get better, then he'd stop taking it and things would get bad again. Sarah is taking notes, her hand moving rapidly across the page. Where is your brother now? Dead, Brennan says flatly. He died in 2002. Car accident. Drove off a cliff in New Mexico. The police ruled it an accident, but I always wondered if maybe he did it on purpose. Maybe the guilt finally got to him too. Tell me exactly what happened on June 17, Sarah says. Brennan closes his eyes. When he speaks, his voice is distant, like he's watching the memory play out on a screen somewhere far away. David was living with me at the time. He'd lost his apartment, lost his job. I was trying to help him get back on his feet. That day, I was at work. I'd taken a few days off for vacation, but I'd gone in anyway to do some side work for cash. I wasn't supposed to be there officially, which is why my time sheet showed I was off. I got home around 4 p.m. David's truck was in the driveway. My blue Dodge Ram. I'd been letting him use it because his car had broken down. He pauses, swallows hard. I went inside. David was in the bathroom, washing blood off his hands. There was panic in his eyes. He looked at me and said, I think I killed someone. Just like that. Calm. Matter of fact. Like he was telling me he thought he'd left the stove on. What did you do? Sarah asks. I freaked out, Brennan says. I asked him what the hell he was talking about. He told me he'd been driving around, saw a girl walking alone, offered her a ride. She got in the truck. He said he tried to touch her, and she screamed. He said he just wanted to make her stop screaming, so he hit her. He said he didn't mean to hit her that hard, but she stopped moving. He panicked, drove to a remote area, and left her body in some bushes. Where was the body? Sarah asks. He wouldn't tell me at first. He was rambling, not making sense. I knew I should call the police, but he was my brother. My little brother. And he was looking at me with these eyes, these scared, lost eyes, and he was begging me to help him. He said they'd lock him up forever. He said he couldn't go back to the hospital. He was terrified. Brennan's voice breaks. He's crying now, tears running down his face. So I helped him. God help me, I helped him. We waited until dark. David took me to where he'd left the body. It was in a ditch off the side of the road, not far from where she'd been walking. She was still there. She was just a kid. Just a little kid in a white shirt and shorts. And she was dead. What did you do with the body? Sarah asks, keeping her voice gentle but firm. We put her in the truck. Wrapped her in a tarp. David said we needed to take her somewhere far away, somewhere she wouldn't be found or connected back to us. He'd been to Denton before for a job, said he knew some remote areas out there. So we drove. 350 miles. It took us all night. We found a spot off County Road 42. Dug a shallow grave. Buried her. And then we drove back to Amarillo. What about her belongings? Sarah asks. David had thrown her backpack in a dumpster earlier. We went and found it, threw it in a different dumpster miles away. Then we cleaned the truck. Spent hours cleaning it. Bleach, soap, everything we could think of. But you can't ever really get it all clean, can you? There's always something left behind. The fiber, Sarah says. The fiber, Brennan agrees. I should have known. I should have known it would catch up with us eventually. Why didn't you come forward? Sarah asks. Why did you let Sophia's family suffer for 30 years not knowing what happened to their daughter? Because I was a coward, Brennan says simply. Because I chose my brother over doing the right thing. And every day since then, I've hated myself for it. Every single day. When David died in 2002, I thought about coming forward then. But what would have been the point? He was already dead. I couldn't bring Sophia back. I couldn't undo what we did. All I could do was try to live a quiet life and hope that maybe somehow that would be enough penance. But it never was. It never could be. Sarah sits back, processing everything Brennan has just told her. I'm going to need you to come back to Texas with me. You're going to need to give a formal statement. You're going to be charged with accessory after the fact to murder, improper disposal of a body, possibly other charges. I know, Brennan says. I'm ready. I've been ready for 30 years. I just didn't have the courage until now. What changed? Sarah asks. Brennan looks at her with red-rimmed eyes. You did. You showing up here, asking questions, not letting it go. You reminded me that Sophia Rodriguez was a real person. That she mattered. That she deserved justice. And I realized I've been protecting a dead man at the expense of a dead girl who never did anything wrong except get in the wrong truck on the wrong day. That's not right. That's never been right. Sarah arrests Thomas Brennan that evening. He doesn't resist. He cooperates fully. He gives a detailed statement. He provides information about his brother's mental health history, about the truck, about the route they took to Denton, about everything he can remember from that night 30 years ago. The next morning, Sarah flies back to Texas with Brennan in custody. The story breaks nationwide. Cold case solved after 30 years, man confesses to helping brother cover up murder of teenage girl. The media descends. Sophia Rodriguez's face is everywhere. That smiling school photograph, the one that captured a girl who thought she had her whole life ahead of her. Sarah meets with Maria Rodriguez in person to tell her everything. It's one of the hardest conversations she's ever had. Maria cries. She's angry and heartbroken and relieved all at once. Angry that it took 30 years. Angry that the man who actually killed her daughter is dead and beyond justice. But relieved to finally know. Relieved to finally have answers. Relieved to finally be able to bring Sofia home. Sophia Rodriguez's remains are released to her family. They hold a funeral. Hundreds of people attend. People who remember Sofia, people who never knew her but were touched by her story, people who believe that every victim deserves to be mourned no matter how long they've been gone. Maria Rodriguez stands at her daughter's grave and finally says the goodbye she never got to say 30 years ago. Thomas Brennan is charged with accessory after the fact to murder, tampering with physical evidence, and improper disposal of human remains. He pleads guilty to all charges. At his sentencing hearing, he reads a statement. He apologizes to the Rodriguez family. He talks about the guilt he's carried, the life he's lived in fear and shame, the brother he loved but should have turned in. He doesn't ask for mercy. He doesn't make excuses. He just tells the truth. The judge sentences him to 15 years in prison. Given his age and health issues, it's likely a life sentence. Brennan accepts it without complaint. As he's led out of the courtroom, he looks at Maria Rodriguez one last time. "I'm sorry," he says. "I'm so sorry." Maria doesn't respond. She just watches him go. After the trial, Sarah returns to the Center for Human Identification to thank Miguel Aranda. "None of this happens without you," she tells him. "Without that fiber, without your attention to detail, Sofia Rodriguez stays Jane Doe forever." "It's what we do," Miguel says modestly. "We give the forgotten their names back. We help people go home." Sarah thinks about those words often in the weeks and months that follow. She thinks about them every time she works a cold case, every time she looks at evidence that's been sitting untouched for decades, every time she considers giving up on a lead that seems too thin to pursue. She thinks about Sofia Rodriguez, who walked 3 blocks to study with a friend and never arrived. She thinks about a blue pickup truck and a fiber no bigger than a fingernail. She thinks about how justice delayed is not justice denied, not if someone cares enough to keep looking. 3 months after Thomas Brennan's sentencing, Sarah receives a letter. It's from Maria Rodriguez. Inside is a short note written in careful, looping handwriting. "Dear Detective Chen, I wanted to thank you for bringing my Sofia home. For 30 years I prayed every night that someone would care enough to find out what happened to my baby. You cared. You didn't give up. You gave me the gift of closure, of knowing, of being able to finally lay my daughter to rest with her name and her dignity intact. I will never forget what you did for us. Sofia is finally at peace, and so am I. With eternal gratitude, Maria Rodriguez." Sarah keeps the letter in her desk drawer. On hard days, when cases seem impossible and leads go nowhere, she takes it out and reads it. She reminds herself why this work matters. She reminds herself that behind every cold case file, every Jane Doe, every unsolved mystery, there's a person who mattered to someone. There's a mother who's still waiting. There's a family that deserves answers. And sometimes, if you look hard enough, if you care enough, if you refuse to let the forgotten stay forgotten, you can bring them home. The case of Sofia Rodriguez became a landmark in cold case investigation. The successful use of fiber evidence from a vehicle that no longer existed, combined with advances in DNA identification and the determination of investigators who refused to give up, set a precedent for how old cases could be resurrected and solved. The case was written up in forensic journals. It was featured in true crime documentaries. It was taught in criminal justice classrooms as an example of how science and persistence can overcome even decades of silence. But for Sarah Chen, it was never about the accolades or the recognition. It was about a 16-year-old girl who walked 3 blocks and never came home. It was about refusing to let her be forgotten. It was about justice, delayed but not denied. In the end, that's what matters. In the end, that's everything. That's the story of Sofia Rodriguez. A girl who should have had a whole life ahead of her but had it stolen in a moment of violence. A girl who was buried in an unmarked grave and almost stayed there forever. A girl who was finally given her name back, finally brought home, finally allowed to rest in peace. This is how science refused to let her stay forgotten. This is how one fiber, one beam of blue light, one dedicated forensic specialist, and one determined detective brought 30 years of silence to an end. This is Coldcase Crimelab, where we believe that no one should be forgotten, no matter how long they've been gone. If this story moved you, if it reminded you why justice matters even when it's delayed, then I need you to do something for me. Hit that subscribe button. Share this video with someone who cares about the forgotten. Leave a comment telling me what case you think we should investigate next. Because there are thousands of Sofia Rodriguez's out there. Thousands of families still waiting. Thousands of cold cases that need someone who cares enough to keep looking. And we're not going to stop. We're going to keep digging. Keep investigating. Keep shining light into the darkest corners of unsolved crimes. We're going to keep giving names back to the nameless and bringing closure to families who've waited far too long. Thank you for watching. Thank you for caring. Thank you for helping us make sure that Sofia Rodriguez, and all the victims like her, are never forgotten. Until next time, this is Coldcase Crimelab, signing off. Remember, justice doesn't have an expiration date. And neither does our determination to find it.